Marhaba. Can everyone please take their seats? In true Lebanese fashion, we're running late. So if we can get everybody moving to the front, please. So hi everyone, I'm Liz Deep Jones. I'll just get my glasses. I'm a journalist, author, human rights activist, a mother, and importantly, I'm a proud Lebanese woman. Proud to be with you here today to speak out, stand up and call for hands off Lebanon, for an independent Lebanon, a free Lebanon, a peaceful Lebanon, which means the US-backed Israel must get out, Israel out of Lebanon. We will not be gagged and we will not be silenced. I'd like to officially begin these proceedings by acknowledging the traditional owners of the land on which we're gathered today, the Vigil peoples of the Darug Nation, and pay my respects to elders past, present and emerging. I'm extremely honoured to be standing before you today as a member of the Australian Lebanese diaspora, and including, I just want to shout out to my colleagues Daisy, Shay and George from our steering committee. They've been tirelessly working their butts off for, only it's been a couple of weeks to make sure we can make this event happen. But we've joined forces in this global action demanding hands off Lebanon. And we are gathered, unfortunately, under tragic circumstances, but we are positively united with people from all backgrounds, religion, in our fight for a free Lebanon and for hands off Lebanon. We've been watching the horrors unfold on our social media. Nearly every day, the killing of children, families, people we know, journalists, health workers, UN staff, the list goes on. And we ask ourselves, what can I do to help? We feel helpless because we're watching this unfold before our very eyes and the world is silent, shamelessly silent. How can I help? What can I do? Well, being here today, each and every one of you, you're making a stand. You're calling out our complicit government, calling for demands for sanctions against Israel and the end of selling arms to Israel, and for a permanent ceasefire for Lebanon and for Palestine, for the Palestinian territories, our brothers and sisters there who are suffering in a genocide. So you're making your voices heard and you're making a difference. And again, we will not be gagged and we will not be silenced. It's important that we continue talking about Lebanon and Palestine. We must be active and continue to call out the injustices that Lebanon is currently enduring. 10,452 kilometres squared, not 1 metre less. So before we begin the official proceedings, I need to take care of housekeeping. Down to my right are the restrooms. If you feel faint or need first aid, please go for assistance in the back of this tarpaulin here. Please stay hydrated. There's water available. Our lovely volunteers, thank you to them as well, giving their time. Big shout out to you in the visibility vests. They're also on hand to assist. A big thank you to the members of the New South Wales Police. Mr Moses, thank you for being here as well, joining us and working with us on our vigil. We thank them for being here. We also thank Cumberland City Council. Melissa, where's Melissa's over there somewhere in the corner? She's been incredible with her staff as well. Our dear friend on the sound who's helped us as well to prepare for this day. We couldn't have done this without you. This is a peaceful vigil to pay our respects for the tragedy that's occurring in Lebanon, the loss of lives of families, of children, and as I said earlier, of course, the health professionals and the journalists. Lebanon and for the millions that are also displaced. So it's an extremely distressing time, as I said, for all of us. So together, though, we can peacefully use our platforms to call out for justice, demand again on the government to call for sanctions and the end of selling weapons, arms to Israel. Thank you. Hands off Lebanon. Hands off Lebanon! Hands off Lebanon! Hands off Lebanon! We'll also be joined a little bit later as well from prominent politicians and who are also supporting our cause. And later on, we're continuing until 6 o'clock tonight, and we'll call on everyone to, you'll be given a candle to lay on the beautiful Lebanese flag in memory of those people that have lost their lives. Now, I'd like to introduce you to our Master of Ceremonies. She's a Lebanese-Australian award-winning journalist, filmmaker, entrepreneur, and most importantly, a human rights advocate. And she's been working tirelessly, as I said earlier, with volunteers to host this incredible event. She's also produced and created and directed the incredible award-winning documentary, Enough, Lebanon's Darkest Hour, which was released in 2022. It lifted the lid on the Beirut port explosion of August 2020 and the corruption within Lebanon, calling out the leaders and political players that have contributed to Lebanon's economic and social collapse. I'd please like to welcome to the stage the incredible Daisy Gedeon, who recently returned to Sydney after having to escape the illegal invasion of Lebanon, where she's been living for the past 3 years. And she'll share her story with us, her lived experience of witnessing the horrors in Lebanon that we are here to stop. Big round of applause for Daisy Gedeon. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Liz. The incredible, I don't know about that. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, it is my humble honour to be standing before you today as a representative of the Australian Lebanese diaspora and a much larger global diaspora alliance who decided to unite in an unprecedented action to state very clearly to all Lebanon's enemies, hands off Lebanon. I'd like to start, though, this moment, as Liz briefly mentioned, to thank those people who came together on such short notice to help make this possible. It was only 4 weeks ago that the Global Alliance from all over the communities around the world, from as far as France, America, Canada, South America, and the GCC in Lebanon decided we needed to do something to coincide with Lebanon's Independence Day and stand up against the actions that are being, the atrocities being committed against our people in Lebanon. And this young group of people gallantly came together to help me put this together and speak out through the media. So I'm going to call out George Bousamra, Shay Gitani, Liz Deep-Jones, Sarah Scaff, Nuhra Shaluhi, Lara El-Shar, Sarah Saadi, Asma Salibi El-Dirani, Dalal El-Khatib, and our dear friend Bakar Muhammad, who is still in Beirut but helped contribute to helping make this possible. My honest and humble thanks to you. We remind everyone here today that this is a peaceful vigil. We want the whole of Australia and the world to hear our message and understand why this is so important, not only to Lebanon, but to humanity. I'd like to start, please, with a moment's silence. And if you don't mind standing, I want to have that moment's silence for those that have lost their lives in Lebanon. So if you can all please stand up for a minute. Thank you. I would like to start this gesture today of a candlelight vigil by placing the first candle, and I too have 2 young volunteers, but I don't know if they're too shy to come up now with me. Cece and Adam, come up. And the reason I've chosen them is because they lost their cousin a couple of years ago in Lebanon in a direct attack in the Bekaa Valley on their home. So I really would love for them to join us, but I know they're very shy. What do we do with young kids? Anyway, if they don't want to, I'm going to place a candle. What do they say in entertainment movie industry? Never work with animals and children. That's okay. We'll probably do that later. They can come up. You're going to come? Come. Yeah, beautiful. Here you go. Put it on the green tree, on the cedar tree. Just wait a minute. Thank you very much. Let's not walk on. That's it. We're also right now going to raise the Lebanese flag and sing the national anthem, followed by the Australian anthem. So again, if you don't mind, please standing while we raise the flag and sing the Lebanese anthem. Yeah. And George Bussamra is going to do the honours with the flag. Thank you. Thank you. Okay. Please sing along. للعلم للعين الزمن سيفنا والقلم سهمنا والجبل ننكب للرجال حبنا والعمل في سبيل الكلام كلنا للوطن للهوى للعلم كلنا للوطن. Please stay standing for the Australian anthem. Going on. Australians all let us rejoice, for we are one and free. With golden soil and wealth of toil, our home is girt by sea. Our land abounds in nature's gifts of beauty rich and rare. In history's stage, let every stage advance Australia fair. In joyful strains then let us sing, advance Australia Thank you very much. I'd like to call on Dr. Andrew Charlton to open the proceedings with the official speeches, and we will then continue with our other official guests. Thank you. Firstly, I must say, it was a great honour. I got to meet this young gentleman a couple of weeks ago, and I was so totally moved. I hadn't met you before, but I was moved by your reaction to our cause and the purpose of this gathering and your commitment. And I know you're the chair of the Parliamentary Friends of Lebanon Committee, which adds much more weight and importance that you're here representing the Australian government. So thank you, Andrew, for being here.
Thank you, Daisy, and I assure you the honour is all mine. Friends, it's wonderful to be here with you today. I acknowledge the traditional owners of the land on which we meet. I acknowledge all of the distinguished guests here today, in particular my friend Jihad Dib and Erin. Very proud to have Jihad in our party as a leader, someone to guide us through these challenges, someone who always brings strength and resolve and conviction and understanding to these challenges. Thank you, Jihad. I want to acknowledge Daisy, Shay, George, Liz, all the organisers. Thank you for your strength. Thank you for standing up for what matters. Thank you for showing us that peace is the answer. Thank you for showing us that through peace we can deliver for Lebanon, and we can galvanise the Australian community to do that. Every day we are witnessing a heartbreaking crisis unfolding in the Middle East, and the recent escalation of violence has once again put even more innocent lives at risk, caused even more deaths. And my message to you is that Australia cannot stand idly by. Lebanon is a nation already scarred by decades of economic hardship, and now it's teetering on the brink. We must make sure that Lebanon does not become the next Gaza. Just recently, Penny Wong stated this in the United Nations, and her words resonate deeply. They're not just a warning, but they are a call to action for all of us to commit to peace and stability for the sake of humanity. You know, the Lebanese people are one of the great migratory groups of the world. They've travelled all over the world, settled all over the world, and everywhere they go, they're builders. And I mean that both metaphorically and literally. Whether it be Australia, the United States, Canada, Brazil, all the countries that Lebanese people have settled in, they've contributed to. They've helped to build up. Well, now is the time for the international community to return that favour. Now is the time for us to give back and be there for Lebanon when it matters. The Albanese government unequivocally calls for a ceasefire. Full stop. I'll say that again. The Albanese government unequivocally calls for a ceasefire. We call upon all parties to prioritise the lives of civilians, to protect vital infrastructure, and to respect the sanctity of human life. Enough is enough. Australia has stepped up. We are increasing our humanitarian aid to Lebanon to ensure that those that are most vulnerable, the children, the elderly and the displaced, receive assistance they so desperately need. This is not just about money, it's about solidarity. It's about showing the Lebanese people that they are not alone and that Australia stands with them in their hour of need. We're also working closely with international partners to ensure that aid reaches those who need it most, even in the most challenging circumstances. But let me be clear. Humanitarian aid, while essential, is not enough. We need a ceasefire. Ceasefire is the solution. And we call on the international community to unite in demanding an end to hostilities. The violence must stop, dialogue must replace destruction, peace must be the priority, Lebanon's future depends on it, and so does the stability of the entire region. I want to finish with a message to the Lebanese community in Australia. We hear your anguish. We share your grief. Your resilience inspires us, and your calls for peace strengthen our resolve. Together we will continue to demand justice and compassion and continue to demand an enduring peace in the land you call home. In closing, I urge everyone, governments, organisations and individuals alike, to rise to this moment. This is not just Lebanon's fight, it's everyone's fight. It's a fight for humanity, for the values we hold dear, and for the belief that every life matters. Let us ensure that Lebanon does not become the next Gaza. Thank you.
That was beautifully said. Thank you so much, Andrew. I didn't even have to prompt you, but it was exactly what we need to hear, and God willing, it translates into real action on the ground and at the United Nations and on a global level. I know you have to rush, so before you do, I do want to just start my speech, I wanted to introduce you hard, but I'm going to introduce you straight after, because I really would love for you to be here to hear what we have to say, and the community, the global community and the diaspora here really want to convey to Australia, to all of Australia and the Australian government. So I'm going to take this opportunity now. I mentioned before how honoured I am to be here and to be representing the Australian diaspora and the global alliance of Lebanese around the world. I've been an active member of the Australian Lebanese community for more than 40 years, advocating for Lebanon since the late 1980s, during the Civil War, the years of Syrian occupation, against the corruption that has brought our country to its knees, the August 4 port blast, and more recently opposing the Israeli aggression against both Palestine and Lebanon. But today we come together not to shout, not to scream, not to fight, not to argue. We come in peace. We come in peace and solemnity to pray for our people who have been killed and are suffering intolerable hardship from an evil and dark force that threatens our very existence. Thank you. Yes, our hearts are breaking. Yes, our eyes are weeping. Yes, we are in disbelief at the horrors we are witnessing in being inflicted upon our country. The murder and slaughter of our people, the destruction of homes, of cities and villages, and our ancient monuments. Beautiful Beirut is littered with rubble and ashes, and the tortured souls of yet again more of our citizens. Our people have still not recovered or overcome the tragedy of the August 4 blast. We have not healed from more than 220 civilians who lost their lives in that disaster. And yet, here we find ourselves again, ravaged by destruction and death. Yes, our spirit is despondent by all that we are beholding, but we are not beaten. And today, thousands of our countrymen and women are standing together around the world in solidarity to show the world that we will not allow our homeland, our country, our parents, our grandparents, the land of our forefathers and ancestors be taken, be demolished or stolen from us. We, the Australian Lebanese diaspora, who are part of a 16 million strong global diaspora, stand together to firmly and clearly and determinedly tell all those enemies who would try to banish us from our homes and homeland and steal our sovereignty, hands off Lebanon. Today, the greatest threat to our independence, to our future, to our freedom, is the rogue and pariah state of Israel, a state whose leader, Benjamin Netanyahu, and former Defence Minister Yoav Gallant were only a few days ago the subject of International Criminal Court arrest warrants. The world's highest court has finally, officially, accused them of war crimes and crimes against humanity for their role in the genocide perpetrated against the Palestinians for the past 14 months. Their same despicable methods of war have been implemented against our people in Lebanon for the past nearly 3 months. Finally, although far too late, the world is seeing and beginning to take action against this Zionist entity that has brought the world to the brink of World War III and has caused us all to question the very values of justice, humanity, equality, trust, and so much more that we hold so sacred. Finally, after witnessing the unjustifiable horrors the Israeli Defence Forces are committing against innocent adults and children, the war crimes, the atrocities, the rapes and violations of every international humanitarian law, the world is distancing itself from Israel's malicious and unconscionable acts of terror and beginning to hold the Zionist state accountable. And I want to take a moment to acknowledge and applaud the Australian government, which last week in the United Nations bravely distanced itself from its so-called ally, the United States, and rightly, justly, fairly and humanely voted in favour of recognising the permanent sovereignty of the Palestinians over the occupied territories and of the Arabs over the Golan Heights. We also welcome the Australian government's decision to change its position and to vote in favour of blaming Israel for the historic oil slick that dangerously affected Lebanon's precious Mediterranean coastline during the 2006 Second Lebanon-Israel War. Thank you again. Yes, these are moves in the right direction, but they took far too long and have not gone nearly enough to end Israel's reign of terror against both the Palestinians and the Lebanese. Today in Lebanon, 1.2 million civilians, innocent children, babies, mothers, fathers, the elderly on oxygen machines, the sick and handicapped have been made homeless, displaced, forced to flee with nothing but the clothes on their back, leaving everything behind them, terrified by the relentless, indiscriminate bombardment and destruction of villages, their homes. At least 37 villages have been intentionally detonated and completely destroyed by the Israeli soldiers who showcased their atrocities, their crimes, in crude videos on TikTok and other social media platforms. To date, more than 3,750 Lebanese civilians have been killed in the daily onslaught by Israeli warplanes and missiles across all areas of Lebanon, in particular Beirut, South Lebanon and the Bekaa Valley. And nearly 15,000 of our people have been severely injured, losing limbs, eyesight, mobility and normal function. A record number of 281 humanitarian aid workers have been killed since January. Countless journalists have been directly targeted and killed, and UNIFIL peacekeeping forces have been attacked by Israeli strikes in Lebanon. All these actions constitute a direct breach of international humanitarian law, and Israel must be held accountable for every action. This is abhorrent, it's unjustifiable, it is point-blank wrong and must be stopped immediately. We call on the Australian government and all countries who claim to value and uphold democracy and independence to immediately, unequivocally demand Israel cease fire. We demand an immediate cessation of all hostilities and an enforcement of Lebanon's sovereign rights over all its land, air and sea territory. As Andrew quite aptly stated, enough is enough. What more does anyone, let alone world leaders who are elected and appointed to uphold these principles and rights, need to witness? How many babies does Israel have to murder before we will all say, and they will all say, enough, khalas? We know Israel's ultimate aim is to invade, occupy and annex Lebanon. And again, we restate, no, never, take your hands off Lebanon. And we say this to all foreign nations that have tried and are trying to influence and interfere in Lebanon's sovereignty, whether it's Iran, Syria, the USA, Saudi Arabia, Russia, China, or whomever. Enough of your meddling and using our homeland to carry out your proxy wars. You destroyed our homeland with your internal interference during Lebanon's masterfully orchestrated civil war from 1975 to 1990. Enough. My people, our people, have endured your intrusion and your sanction of criminal and corrupt elements within our government even, for decades. Enough. We are capable. We are clever. We are ready. And we are willing to take control of our country and our future if you just take your hands off Lebanon. Give us a chance. I'm sure we will surprise you. In fact, I'm sure we'll blow your mind with what we can do, create, innovate and transform and contribute to the world. You've seen how successful our business people, our sports stars, our artists, our musicians, our politicians, our entrepreneurs are here in Australia, America, France, the UK, all over the world. And don't worry, we don't have any intention of taking over your countries. We are team players, not dictators. We just love to give, to live and to love. It's just who we are. It's in our DNA. But we will never have this opportunity unless you take your hands off Lebanon. So today, we, the Australian diaspora, join our voices to those of our global diaspora in calling on the Australian government and all world leaders to help us take charge of our destiny by enforcing some key demands which we are globally demanding. We demand an immediate ceasefire. We demand a full and unambiguous implementation of UN Resolution 1701 without procrastination, excluding Israel's requirements or alterations, which would allow it, if you haven't heard, which would allow it to have authority over Lebanon's airspace and to bomb Lebanon whenever it appeared to feel a threat from Lebanon. This would be a complete violation of our sovereignty. It is unacceptable and must be rejected unequivocally. For to accept this would be to set a dangerous precedent for other rogue nations to take similar action, and this would be treacherous for democracy and will herald the beginning of a new dark age for humanity. We also demand the deployment of the Lebanese army throughout the whole of Lebanon, making it the only military authority responsible for Lebanon's security and defence. We demand an immediate election of a Lebanese president and formation of a rescue government. And finally, we demand the safe and sustainable return of the 1.2 million displaced Lebanese civilians to their homes and villages. And we, the Lebanese diaspora, understand and we recognise that the majority of these responsibilities do lie on the Lebanese government. These goals cannot be achieved without their commitment. But what we want is to use your influence and your power and persuasion to influence them to take these real steps to allowing Lebanon to take charge of its destiny and end the corruption that has desecrated our country internally and decayed our nation. Again, we say enough, and here today we call on all free and democratic nations to put pressure on our leaders to end the criminal stranglehold over the country and to the foreign powers enabling these corrupt oligarchs and their cronies. And we say enough. We call on you to demand that these leaders, our leaders, uphold the Lebanese constitution and the values of democracy and justice that we here in Australia and all of us in the diaspora and our families and friends who love Lebanon hold so dear. I'm so proud to be part of the Lebanese diaspora in Australia and around the world who have taken this unprecedented step to stand united globally for the first time under one clear message to Israel, to America, to the world and to every other foreign enemy that tries to destroy, disrupt and occupy our country. Hands off Lebanon. We are and will always be one country, one army, one people, one flag, one Lebanon. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you all. And now I'd like to invite a special guest who's popped in, Jihad Dib, the member for Canterbury, Bankstown, Canterbury, Australia, a representative and a long-serving member of our diaspora. Thank you very much, Jihad. Thank you. Thank you. I'm going to fix this up for you. Here we go. We're going to tighten that.
We're going to work it out.
Here you go.
Okay.
That should hold it up.
I might get a little bit higher.
Okay.
There we go.
Thank you.
Hey, surely someone's got like a spanner set in the car? Well, thank you so much, Daisy. And look, it's important that I'm here. And of course, I want to begin by acknowledging the traditional owners of the land and pay my respects, elders past, present, and emerging. And I'll explain why that's so important. You know, this is the first of what's happening around the world at the moment. And as a person who was born in Lebanon, obviously, you know, it means a little bit extra to me. I get to be able to speak in the Parliament about a number of things. But before I do that, I want to thank you for your leadership on this. Daisy, I want to thank my old friend, well, not my old friend, my long-time friend, rather than say my old friend, Liz Deep Jones, for the work on this as well. I've known Liz for many years. She's a beautiful human being. Let's give her a round of applause. To Shay, George, and all of the organisers, and all of the people who are volunteering, and people who have given up their Sunday afternoon to be here. I especially want to give an acknowledgement to the New South Wales Police. You know, they're the people that we ring when we need them, but they're also the people who sometimes people look to blame when something goes wrong. But the fact that they're here means an incredible amount. So thanks so much to the coppers. Appreciate it. As the sticker says, cops are tops. So, and of course, Dr. Charlton. Dr. Andrew Charlton, who I met a while ago, before he became Member of Parliament, and I knew of him. And he's a person with an incredible sense of decency, an incredible sense of commitment, and somebody who's balanced in his thinking. He likes to hear what's going on, and your kind words, I would only throw back right at you. I know how hard it is at the moment as a Member of Parliament to be able to speak about certain things, but I also know that you don't take a moment back, you don't take a step back, and you're making sure that you're reflecting all the views of our community, the views that are very close to your heart. So thanks so much, Andrew. And it's times like this I wish I'd written a speech, but you know, when we were ready to start, I don't know if anyone was paying attention to the music, but I was. The music, one of the songs that came on was Fairuz's Habak Ya Lebanon, which is actually one of my favourite songs. I don't know the whole song and I'm not a good singer, but it's one of my favourite songs, and it's actually a beautiful song. And for those who don't speak Arabic, what it says is, I love you, Lebanon. And then it goes through all of the reasons why she loves Lebanon and all the reasons why we would love Lebanon. Because Lebanon, it's all its confusion and all its beauty and all of its differences and all of its different religions and cultures and backgrounds and history. It is all somehow coming together to make it the most beautiful country, to make it a country that somehow works, that somehow every single person gets to have their say. And so when it talks about the Lebanese people being anid, which is stubborn, that's exactly what happens, because Lebanese people are. And I'm here as a proud Australian and also proud Lebanese. And we don't have to choose between being Lebanese and being Australian. We're all Australian. And that's the country that is our home. But that doesn't mean that we forget the history. It doesn't mean we forget the heritage. We don't forget the blood that runs through our veins. We don't forget the heritage of thousands of years of humanity. And that's why wherever you are in the world, if you've got a little bit of Lebanese heritage, it means you never lose it. It means you never stop thinking about it, because you're always connected in some way. Now, this morning I visited Mum, and I was talking to her, and as you always do, I said, how's the family? Because we've got a lot of family in Lebanon. And she told me exactly what I thought it was. It's a struggle. They don't know what's coming next. Apart from the fact that there's some indiscriminate bombing that's going on, and we saw that at 4 a.m. yesterday morning, that innocent people were once again killed. Apart from the fact that people make decisions that are not their business, that actually impact on others' lives. Apart from the fact that there's 1.5 million people who have got nowhere to call home. And apart from the fact that people now are starting to struggle more and more with food, well, where is Lebanon to go from here? What is Lebanon? And why does everyone want to be involved in Lebanon? And so today when we talk about Hands Off Lebanon, it's about making the Lebanon that Lebanon can be, the Lebanon that it is, the 10,452 kilometres squared that is Lebanon. No more, no less. That's what it is, that's what its sovereign country is, and that's what Lebanese people want. That homeland that they can control, that they can have decisions over, that we unite all together, that we don't say, well, you're in this party and you're in this party and you're in this party, so you do your own thing. That is not the Lebanon that is the peaceful Lebanon, the humane Lebanon, the kind Lebanon, but the Lebanon that moves forward. Because Lebanon, people talk about Lebanon back in the 60s. We don't have to just look back in the 60s and we say, that's what we want Lebanon to be. What we say is we want Lebanon to be what it can be, the best that it can be. Because what Lebanese people have is an incredible spirit within them that nothing can break. No foreign interference, no other person can break it. There's that spirit in Lebanon and in Lebanese people that will never, ever go away. So when people are talking about Hands Off Lebanon, they're talking about everybody keeping their hands off Lebanon. They're talking about allowing the Lebanese people to be Lebanese. And of course, this doesn't just come by itself. We've seen over the past 14 months the most horrific things that we will live through. We've seen images that will haunt us for the rest of our life. We have seen absolute destruction. We have seen so many innocent people killed, whether they're in Gaza, whether they're in the West Bank, and we're seeing it in Lebanon. And for many of you, you've spoken out every single day that you can. But the idea that someone can just make some decisions and say, well, people who die are collateral damage, that's not humanity. That's not humankind. We're not here shouting, we're not here screaming, we're not here fighting. What we are all here for is that sense of humanity. And the humanity in the end will be the thing that gets us through. And I'm proud of the Australian government for having made some decisions of late, particularly in the United Nations. I'm proud that we've been able to find that voice, that we've been able, people through Dr. Charlton and myself, being able to say what we need to say. And I know there'll be people who say more needs to be done. Well, there's always more that needs to be done. There always is. But the one goal that we all have, no matter where you are all across the world, is a goal of peace and a goal of justice, because peace without justice isn't quite complete. So we need those two things. We want young people, wherever they are in the world, to have the same opportunities that we have in this most amazing country that we call home. This is the greatest country. We want everyone to have that same opportunity. We want doctors to be able to do the work they need to do without being under threat of being bombed. We want aid that comes from people all around the world to be able to get through to the people that need it. We want peace. We want justice. And we want independent and sovereign states that their own people can make their own decisions. That's the kind of world that we want. A world of fairness, a world of equity, and a world where international laws are being adhered to. I want to say thank you very much for being here. Keep believing in those things. And Yaish Lebanon and Yaish Australia as well.
So I was caught up in Jihad's speech, so I just got distracted. That was amazing. Thank you, Jihad. Such beautiful words. Thank you, Dr. Charlton, and safe travels to Canberra. Thank you for popping in. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you, Lorna. Thank you. Big shout out to the media here today, ABC News and Oz Arab Media. Thank you for, and all of you, actually, the alternative media. Very powerful. Thank you for your little short clips that you're sending out around the world. I'm going to call, I know David Shoebridge is on his way. He's travelling down from Newcastle to speak with us, so as soon as he arrives we're going to get him on because he's got to keep going down to Canberra as well. But while we're, just before that, I want to call on Rashid El Groubi to come up here. And the reason I've asked him to come up and speak is because a couple of weeks ago, his sister, his nephew and his sister's home were directly targeted by Israeli warplanes and missiles in the Bekaa Valley. And there was a tragic loss of life and scores of people that were injured. And I'd love you to come up, Rashid, and give us tell us that story, because we need to hear from people who are directly affected. A lot of people are too scared to come and speak. A lot of people don't have the confidence. But I called on Rashid. Please come up here next to me. Thank you. And it's his children, Cece and Adam, that put the candles on the flag earlier on. Tfaddal. Thank you.
Sorry, I'm not prepared for the speech, but thank you, Daisy, for letting us coming here and show our self. And what I noticed here, I found the word coming from the heart, which is very nice. That's a good thing. We are united here for Lebanon, and we are here just to say, hand out of Lebanon.
Yeah.
As Daisy mentioned, I'm not prepared for that speech, but I just want to say what happened exactly with my... I'm a guy, I came to Australia 20 years ago, and none of my family in military, or we never joined any military, we're civilian. And my sister, she lived with her 5 kids in the house, and her kids married, and they have like 15 kids playing around the house, and suddenly the bomb came and destroyed everything. There is 10 of my member family in the hospital, injured and wounded, and we lost our little baby, Ali. He's 2 years old. So I believe, like Daisy mentioned, we have to say no. That's terrible, because it's not right what's happening, and the silent what's happening, and keep going, because they say they're negotiating, they're doing this, and take a while, and this time more people get killed. So we have to say no every day, every second, because there is more people getting killed every day, and that's not fair. Thank you very much, Daisy. That's all I'm going to say, and thank you for all you.
Thank you very much, Rashid.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Habiba. God rest his soul, Ali's soul, and may your relatives be healed and recover very quickly. I'm going to... Yes, I've got it. I'm very glad now to introduce Senator David Shoebridge. It's absolutely a pleasure of mine to introduce David, New South Wales Greens Senator, to say a few words, but also because the Greens have been tireless in standing up for justice for Palestine and also for Lebanon over the last 14 months. We're so grateful to them and for taking on the Australian government and pushing them and holding them to account. So, David, thank you very much for making time. I'll give you the platform.
Thanks very much, Daisy, for the warm welcome, and thanks to everyone coming out today. And I'll start by acknowledging we're on Darug land, and we know we're on First Nations land. And I know that the Lebanese diaspora understands that connection to country and land. They understand First Nations' connection to country and land. And we know on this continent we have a long way to go to respect that connection. So let's commit to doing what we can to ensure that First Nations peoples are respected in this land too, and it always was and always will be First Nations land. I want to acknowledge my parliamentary colleagues that are here today and have come earlier, but I particularly want to acknowledge the Lebanese diaspora and the community. And we've seen over more than 12 months now this horrific wave of violence, first across Gaza, spills over into the West Bank, and now this wave, the same wave of violence, sweeping through Lebanon. And I know that the Lebanese community have seen this before. The bombing of villages, the destruction of apartment blocks, the targeting of health infrastructure and economic infrastructure. They've seen it before. You've seen it before. And when it's when it's part of this continuation of the violence we've seen against Gaza and the appalling destruction in Gaza, millions of people dehoused, tens of thousands of civilians killed, and to see this wave now striking through Lebanon. And I know that many people in the diaspora have come to my office and said, you know, where are the politicians speaking for Lebanon? And you know, where is the very clear statement from our government to say to Israel, end the bombing and the killing in Lebanon and end it now? Where is that clear statement from our government? Because I know that statement is coming from the people of Australia. I know it's coming from millions of Australians. And I want to say to the Lebanese Australian community, you are so far from alone in this struggle. Millions and millions of Australians are with you, and your government should be with you and should be with us as well in a far clearer way. And sometimes, you know, the question is, what can the Australian government do? Well, there's some pretty bloody simple things it could do. It could end the two-way arms trade with Israel and stop being any part of the weapons. And it could do that today. And we could stop the dissembling and the lying about that. Because we've been chasing the data from the likes of Penny Wong and Richard Marles and Anthony Albanese, and they have been saying repeatedly that no Australian weapons are going to Israel. Well, we just found out, just a fortnight ago, that of the 66 weapons permits that were in place to permit weapons and weapons parts to go from Australia to Israel, that were in place in June of this year, 90% of them were for military equipment or other equipment that is inherently lethal. 90% of them. And we have forced, with your support, with the support of the Palestinian community, with the support of millions of Australians, we forced the cancellation of 16 of them, but we want everyone cancelled. Every single one cancelled. And I was just, I was up in Newcastle today. I was down in Tasmania a fortnight ago. I've been down in Naarm in Melbourne as well. Across the country, we are seeing Australians coming out and standing in front of manufacturers who are sending parts to the F-35 fighter jet, which is being used to bomb Gaza, being used to bomb Yemen, and being used to bomb Lebanon, standing out the front of those manufacturing facilities and saying, not in our name, end it. We should be no part of a weapons platform that's delivering death and destruction on Lebanese civilians. No part of a weapons platform that's been part of levelling Gaza. And yet our government is quite willing to export the parts that open the bomb bay doors on the F-35. They're only made in Australia and they're exported to Israel, and that opens the bomb bay doors that sends the weapons to Gaza, to Beirut, to Yemen. How is our government permitting that to happen? And then telling us that we're not exporting weapons and weapons parts. Our government is not being honest. Our government is not doing what it can. Our government is not complying with international law, which says we should not assist these war crimes. And they're war crimes in Lebanon and they're war crimes in Gaza, and they're the same war crimes. And we say they should end. So we have just seen the ICJ issue arrest warrants against the leadership of Hamas, but also against Netanyahu and another Israeli minister, the former war minister, Galad. We've just seen the ICJ issue those arrest warrants. And I have been waiting for our government to say the most obvious thing. I've been waiting for Penny Wong and I've been waiting for Anthony Albanese to say the most obvious thing. And this is what they're not saying. If Netanyahu steps onto Australian soil, we will arrest him and send him to trial for war crimes. That's what we're waiting to hear, and that's what we'll continue demanding until it's said loudly and clearly from this government, because that's our international obligation. That's our obligation as part of common humanity. So I want to thank you for continuing to come out and speak, and thank you for demanding something very simple from our government, which is, what should any government do? What should you do? What should we do in the face of a genocide? And there's really only one thing that international law and common decency says we should do in the face of a genocide. which is everything in our power, in our work, in our social communities, everything in our power to end it, and that's what we demand of our government, and that's what we're demanding today. So I'll finish with this. I'm on my way down to Canberra now. I popped in to see you on my way down to Canberra, and I will take this message that you're sending, that the Lebanese diaspora, Lebanese Australian community, the Lebanese global diaspora, together with millions of Australians, demands more from our government, demands our government be better, demands that they put sanctions on the extremist Israeli cabinet, demands that our government end the two-way arms trade, and demands that the Lebanese Australian community be heard in the halls of Parliament.
Yes.
I sometimes, when I'm down there and I'm looking at them, and that, you know, looking across the chamber at the likes of Penny Wong or Simon Birmingham or one of the other coalition lot, and I'm thinking, how can they not see what we see? I mean, how can they not have seen these images? How can they not have seen the kids and the families? How could they not have spoken to people in our community? I mean, are they just blind to the obscenity of what is going on? And the answer is, they know what's going on. The answer, we don't need to educate them about what's going on. It's just, you wonder why it's happening. And I won't go on about the geopolitics of it, but it's happening because our government will do nothing if they're not given permission by the United States government at the end of the day. They are absolutely captured by the United States government. And they are unwilling to speak honestly to a separate Australian sovereignty and decency that the Australian government wants, the Australian people want them to do. Yeah, a complete lack of courage. But they are captured by this thought, both Labor and the Coalition, captured by the thought that they can't go outside the permission granted by President Biden. But the question will be, over the next 12 months, as the United States lurches into more extremism, are they also going to be captured by the foreign policy of President Trump? Because we cannot have that. We must not have that. And the numbers here need to grow and grow and grow until finally our government frees itself from this mindset that says they can only do what the United States gives them permission to do, and speaks to decency, speaks to a separate sovereignty, and makes Australia an independent player for justice and decency on the planet. Thanks very much.
Wow, them's fighting words, and we agree with them all. We have to do everything, and our Australian government must do everything it can to end the disaster and the violence in Lebanon and in Palestine. They're the end of our official speeches, but we do have more representatives of our community, and I want to call on, firstly, if Sarah Saadi can come up. And this is the voice of the youth. I think it's very important that we give the youth a platform. There's youth around the world, and in Lebanon and around the world, they're the largest majority of Lebanese in the diaspora. Their voice should be heard, must be heard, and their ideas are brilliant. And I think today I've got two people coming up to speak to you. Where is she? Is she around here? Where's Sarah? Oh, Sarah, تفضلي. She's born in Australia, but her heart is still in Lebanon, and I hand over the microphone to you. Let me just bring it down for you.
Hi guys. Can you hear me? I'm really short. You need to put it lower.
Here we go. Is that all right?
Yeah.
Sorry.
Good?
Yep, thank you.
Hi guys. I hate public speaking, by the way, so be patient with me. So I was told to speak about how it feels like to be born here, raised here, and how it feels like to be connected to your homeland. And it was a really tough question, so I had to write a few things down. Today I stand before you with a heart full of love and sorrow as I try to express what it feels like to belong to Lebanon, the home of cedar trees, that stand tall and strong just like the resilience of its people. These are a people with dreams as vivid as yours and mine, holding firmly to the hope of a peaceful Lebanon. But truth be told, that hope feels fragile today. I'm on for a girl my age with unlimited potential, a girl with dreams larger than her little land. The difference between me and her is that I sleep peacefully at night while she struggles to keep her eyes closed. My nightmares are fleeting dreams while hers are reality. How do I yearn for a home while being at home? My parents fled Lebanon in hopes of giving me a better life, but they did not know that my heart would remain tied to the soil they left behind in a country I've known through only stories and dreams. I don't know the feeling of being forced to flee a land I love, but I sure know the feeling of not being able to return to one. The country, I was born and raised in Australia, but I still get told to go back to my country. So in 2022, that's exactly what I did. I travelled to Lebanon, and it felt as though I have never left. I remember making my way back from the airport, seeing a family of 4 on a motorbike and saying, yeah, this is what home feels like. I remember the water going cold while having a shower, but I honestly felt, I called my mum that day and I said, it feels like home, like it really does. The country was struggling. There was no banks, no government, no structure. Food and money was limited. But hospitality never fell short. My uncle drove around Beirut showing me the infrastructure of the explosion and the years of destruction. I recall him saying we will always rebuild Lebanon. In those moments, I saw the unshakable spirit of our people. Even when they have nothing to give, they give everything they have. Yet they continue to be robbed of life. The vibrant streets of Beirut, once alive with life and laughter, now echoes with cries of uncertainty, uncertainty of the future, uncertainty of life, uncertainty of tomorrow. The true treasure of Lebanon lies within its people, a people who have given the world so much through the culture and generosity, but who now struggle to be seen and heard. The nights in Lebanon were magical, the days chaotic, and the pain of its people were only visible if you could look closely enough. But today you don't need to look too close. The pain is loud and clear, and it takes only a beating heart to resonate with this pain. As I stand here today, I carry both pride and heartbreak for my country, and I ponder upon my uncle's words. We will always rebuild Lebanon. Lebanon might be hurting, but its people never break. My people still have so much life to give to watch the land be swept away. So I say enough is enough.
You got all of us emotional. Thank you, Sarah. And now I'd like to invite Nohra El-Shalouhi, another one of our team, who's an eloquent writer that I recently discovered and has written something beautiful for Lebanon. So please come.
Okay. Hi, my name is Nohra, and I lived in Lebanon for 21 years before coming to Australia. To grow up and live in Lebanon is a privilege and it's a blessing, but it is also underscored with tragedy. You see, Lebanon is a nation with a bold and sometimes brazen attitude. It teaches us to make light of our woes, however dire they might be, and it teaches us to make the ugly seem fine and even customary. We watch our country humor us with this endlessly clumsy dance, and in turn we imitate and we learn. We learn that it is better to laugh than to cry. We learn to shine light in even the darkest of times, and we learn to find beauty and love in what little life can have to offer. Our nation is a strong one, and we are made in its image. Lebanon gives you so much to be enamored by, but all too often it seems like a dream bound to end. I remember when I first came to Australia, I told one of my friends in law school, Scarlett, that to leave Lebanon has become this rite of passage. We spend years learning to embrace our roots, only to one day be told to uproot ourselves and leave. It doesn't make sense. Most of my friends and I have already left, but every time we go back home, we feel like tourists. in our own home. That is because we are haunted and overcome by this fear that we won't know when would be the next time or the last time that we can go home. And I was younger when I swore that I would not leave. I must have been 18 when I promised that I would not leave Lebanon unless Lebanon forced me out. Sure enough, later that year, the port explosion happened. That national tragedy is the direct result of years upon years of unchecked, rampant corruption and foreign stifling in our country. And that hot summer afternoon, I bled half to death, and I understood that it was my time to leave. But today, many just like me, thousands of young adults in Lebanon are making that same promise to not leave at the worst of times. And it is upon us as a people, as a nation, to understand that it is our duty to take every step necessary to uphold that wish to stay. Because we may always suffer from foreign interference, if only because our country is a gem upon this earth. But the first step to facing foreign interference is to understand that it starts with us. It starts with understanding that this Lebanese generation and the next and the one after it deserve to experience Lebanon not from stories and word of mouth, certainly not from the news, but from Lebanon's very own motherly soil. And so the way forward is one where we learn to look past the generational trauma and scars that we have been handed down and to look forward to paving the way towards a united, rebuilt, and valiant nation. Ashtum wa Asha Lebanon.
That's why we need more young people, and to hear and listen to the young people, because it's their future. We shouldn't be making decisions about their future. They should be involved in it. Ladies and gentlemen, that concludes the formalities for today. I will encourage you to donate to Lebanon to help. There are certain charities, if you want to help Lebanon, that are recognised charities. I know it's hard to know which one to go to, but obviously UNICEF, Beit al-Baraka, there's also Fund a Hope. If you want to send me a message, I can send you through a list that have been vetted by people on the ground in Lebanon. But there is so much that is needed in the way of mattresses, blankets, clothes, canned foods. We're doing so much inside Lebanon, and so many people around the world are helping. We're involved with Rotary as a global alliance too. In America, there's a huge Rotary community, and there's 37 Rotary organisations across Lebanon who are helping us as well. So we're trying to cover all angles, but today was a very important occasion to speak very clearly about our political situation, our humanitarian demands, and saving our people's lives. As Rashid said, every day that passes, more and more innocent civilians are slaughtered. So thank you for attending. We're going to invite you. We've got candles that we'd like symbolically for you to just come and place on the flag, and we can video that and we can send that as a picture around the world. We've got a few volunteers who will carry the bags and just hand them out to you. But it's a beautiful way for us to close off the proceedings. We'll put on some sensitive and emotional Lebanese music as a kind of a ceremony, a vigil candle ceremony. So thank you all again for coming. And remember to scream out loud and on your social media, hands off Lebanon! Hands off Lebanon! Hands off Lebanon! Hands off Lebanon! Thank you. Thank you. Let's go grab the candles. Thank you very much. Can you take some photos with Jane? I saw you. Try not to step on the flag. I'm gonna.
Shay, have you got David here? Money? All on David? Yes. David not putting the candle down? Sorry. Hang on. What's your code? I don't have it.
here with David Shoebridge. David had one of the most powerful speeches today. Very impressed, especially being on the way to Canberra. Thank you so much for giving our community the time. Very busy, but very thankful for you being here. If you can give us one message, the Lebanese Australian community that you will take next year, hold close to your heart, what would that be?
Well, I mean, the one thing I've heard is the community are saying just literally this: it's hands off Lebanon, and to say that the Australian government needs to say to Israel, we will end the two-way arms trade, we'll have no part in the war that's happening on Lebanon. And I know the Lebanese diaspora in Australia are saying, why is Lebanon not being clearly mentioned in Parliament? Where's the clear message? Well, this is the last week of Parliament. I feel charged by the community here, strengthened by the community here, and I'll take that message down to Parliament, which is hands off Lebanon.
Thank you so much. How can we get in touch with you should we want to voice our concerns further?
We can always contact me directly by email, contact me on my social media. Myself and other Greens members in the federal parliament absolutely prize this kind of connection. And of course, we'll be back out here again in the community with everyone.